we'll figure that one out.
Okay.
So, first thing is that we're gonna have a public information session on an idea of having an Enfield energy rate. Right now, Enfield is part of Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire, and residents in Enfield, most of them have gone on to Enfield Community Power. And Kim and I are both part of that coalition. And we wanted to bring this idea to Enfield to just have a conversation about the possibility of some additional funds that might be available. So I'm Joelle and Courtney.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do we need to get a quorum? Is this like, if it's the start of a real meeting, we just want to make sure.
We do have a quorum in the room. We have, Kim Quirk. We have, see,
Tracy Young.
I wanted to say Stacy, excuse
Right.
me. That's why I hesitated. Tracy, and Joelle and Courtney. And we have guests, Kathy Pelton and
Austin Kovacs.
Austin Kovacs. Okay. Okay, so Kim has a presentation that she's gonna show us and we can have a conversation.
Great. I will share my screen. See if that works. Said share, it's not doing it, so let's try to share a window instead. Okay, that worked. Now, actually, okay, if I do start the presentation, that doesn't share the screen. Okay,
Excuse me, before you start.
Yeah.
Would you check to see if there's anybody who's
Yes.
wanting to get on?
so we'll see them pop up.
Okay, I just wasn't
And
sure.
so you can interrupt me if you see somebody pop up.
Okay.
I think I'm going to have to give this presentation. I do have one other way I can do it. That's a little better than that. Do it this way, it's just a little better. Okay,
Slideshow?
I tried, oh, it's not showing it. Okay. It's the whole window thing. And windows and then have to show the screen. Huh.
If it's too much of an issue, then just do what you were doing.
Yeah, I'll do it that way. We're trying. Okay, let's try this. Okay. Bigger. Now that noise that.
Okay, so that's Charlie.
Yes, okay. Good. You see anybody else show up? Okay, so this is the presentation about feature we have, a possibility of setting our own rate, the Enfield electricity rate. So before I go into the details, a little bit of background on how community power works. Hi, Marta. So community power, basically, this picture shows on the left, we have sources of electricity like solar, windmills, and that would be power plants of varying sorts. And Enfield Community Power will buy power from those sources. The delivery section in the middle shows all the wires that bring that electricity to our buildings and stuff. And the delivery is managed by Eversource Liberty or New Hampshire Electric Co-op within Enfield's community. And then on the right shows the buildings where the electricity is used and the customers, and specifically Enfield customers. And by joining community power, we've been able to save money, choose the rate that we want to work on. And now we get to also think about programs and projects that we can do to help Enfield residents to save more money and move to cleaner energy if that's what they want. So basically, working with the Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire, CPCNH, or the coalition, Enfield Community Power gets to buy, or the coalition buys power for residents of many cities and towns in New Hampshire. And by buying it for a large number of people, then the prices are very competitive. If any one town or city wanted to buy power for themselves, they wouldn't have much buying power. But since we can buy, the Community Power Coalition can buy for many cities and towns, they can get very good rates for us. Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire maintains the programs, helps to set rates. They do the actual buying of energy, and they provide the support for community programs. They don't do the billing. As I said, our existing distribution company continues to maintain the wires and does the billing. So all the bills we get are still from Liberty or Eversource or New Hampshire Electric Co-op. But within that bill, there'll be a supply section, and the supply section would say your supplier is Community Power instead of Liberty's default power, Eversource's default power. All the cash revenues and flow is managed by the coalition, including any town like Enfield Community Power discretionary or reserve funds. So the coalition handles all the funds. Enfield has an opportunity after the first year of operation of Community Power. The coalition has allowed towns to set their own rates, to decide what rate Enfield wants, in our case, to support programs and goals that we have for our town. And here's a little summary of over the last year, the community benefits. And you can see along the left is a whole list of communities that have joined the coalition and have started receiving energy through the coalition. Here's Enfield's line. We're one of the ones who have been there the longest, from 423. And if you read across, the total revenues from Enfield residents and businesses has been $1.78 million, and the total expenses $1.58 million, so that there's joint reserves that Enfield has contributed to the coalition. Customer savings on this side, $460,000 of savings we've had for all of the residents and the municipalities in Enfield that are on Community Power. And 16, this number here, 16,683. That is actually 16 gigawatt hours. So we talk about loads in terms of electricity, in terms of kilowatt hours or megawatt hours or gigawatt hours. And so this 16,000 megawatt hours means 16 gigawatt hours or 16,000 kilowatt hours. Okay, so anyway, that just gives you an idea across all of the communities. CPCNH has helped, Community Power has helped save, I think it was something like $14 million in the first year. Oh, right. So what is rate setting? Every 6 months, the coalition and Liberty Utilities, Eversource, and New Hampshire Electric Co-op set new rates for the upcoming 6-month period. So the rates get set in December and they start in January. So all the rate setting happens about a month before the rates take place or start getting used. And then they set rates again in June that start in August. So you can see the top of this up here. This is the August 1 through January 31 rate period, January 31 of next year. And so this is the rate period we just started, because this is September, so we're 1 month in. And down here at the bottom in the black are the Liberty and the Eversource rates for this period for residential. 10.4 cents a kilowatt hour, and Liberty's at 10.976 cents a kilowatt hour. And this number over here, $71 a month, is approximately the estimated actually, what is the estimated cost? So I'll talk about that in a minute. We'll get there. But the blue and the green up here are the rates of Community Power. So Enfield's Community Power right now is set to a Granite Basic of 8.6 cents per kilowatt hour, which is a nice savings. And Granite Plus, if you want to have a little more green energy, 33% renewable content, you would pay 9.3 cents. And similarly, if you wanted clean 50 or clean 100, you'd pay 10 cents or 12 cents a kilowatt hour to get to that level of renewable content. So right now, we provide a choice of these 4 products, Granite Basic, Granite Plus, Clean 50, Clean 100, to the members of Enfield. And these are the basic rates that Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire sets by evaluating all the loads across all the towns and cities, and by looking at what we expect the energy prices to be in the next 6 months, and by doing some buying ahead of time and leaving some energy available to buy on sort of day-ahead markets, and doing all that analysis. The coalition sets rates in a sophisticated way. And then we, as Enfield, get a chance to look at this and say, if we want to do something different. Did you have a question?
Yes, for the people listening, could you explain why Liberty can't achieve the same low rates?
Yes, the best way to explain why is, first of all, Liberty and Eversource are distribution companies, and they can only pass through rates, supply rates. They don't have any incentive to negotiate rates because the customer has to pay exactly the supply rates that they pass through. And there has been nobody putting pressure on them to do a better job. And actually, Community Power is now putting a little pressure on them to do a better job, but they still don't, they're only required by the PUC, the Public Utilities Commission, to buy their energy at one time for the whole 6-month period. Whereas Community Power Coalition can buy and sell on the energy market, which if you're actively working in the market, you can always do better. New Hampshire Electric Co-op is a co-op and member owned, very much like the Community Power, and therefore they tend to be much more competitive with their buying of electricity in order to help save their members money. So Liberty and Eversource don't have members. They have shareholders, and their shareholders, and they've been allowed by the state and by rules to make a certain profit. And they aren't making profit. I shouldn't even talk about that part because they aren't making profit on supply. It's really important to understand the supply is passed through them, and the customer pays it. And they have not in the past had any reason to negotiate better prices. I think that's the best way to explain it. Do you have other questions about that?
Kim, how come we have 3 different rates?
We actually have 4 rates. The blue one at the bottom is the one that is the current default service rate. And then there's, if you want to add more renewable content, you can pay a little bit more. And what you're actually paying for right now are renewable energy credits. So it's companies out there who can't, who are, you buy credits if you don't actually have the renewable energy. So Community Power wants to encourage and buy local solar and renewable energy as soon as it's available in New Hampshire. Until it's available, and we are they are actively looking for solar, wind farms, biomass, and certain things that all fit into this category of renewables. We're looking for those in order to buy fewer RECs and actually buy the content of that electricity so that it is green. It's just hard because New Hampshire has not encouraged a lot of renewable energy yet. And this is one of the things that the program, the whole coalition can do, is encourage local energy sources to be built in the state, because we'll buy that energy and give it to Enfield residents.
So what does that mean to me tomorrow? Which one should I pick?
Okay, so most people, if you didn't do anything in Enfield, when we launched the program, then you automatically were brought into this Granite Basic program. So you automatically came off the default of Liberty or Eversource.
Can't read that number.
The Liberty one was 10.97,
Yeah.
and the Granite Basic that was the default is 8.6 right now. It varies a little every 6 months, but
So we're
right.
presently on 8.6.
Yeah, 8.6. So that's a little more than 2 cents, savings.
but I'm still not sure what you recommend that I do.
Oh,
personally.
well, anybody who wants to, like at my building, I have like a zero energy building and a business that wants to encourage clean energy. So I opted up to the Clean 100 so that all of the electricity at my building I can claim is from renewable sources,
I
because that's important for my business.
have to have that same profile to be able to go to that.
No, you can do it anytime. Anybody can choose any one of these. So when we look at, and I don't have the graph right now of how many people in Enfield are on Granite Basic, how many have opted up to Granite Plus. So Granite Plus is at 9.3 cents. That's still below Liberty and Eversource. And as a matter of fact, even Clean 50 at 10 cents is below Liberty and Eversource. So a number of people in Enfield have said, well, that's great. I'm still saving money, but I'm helping the environment with a little cleaner. So they'll go to Clean 50. So everybody chooses on their own.
Can we say that though, because looking at it, everyone's gonna have the same question, I think. Why don't we say we love you to go to the 100?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact,
Yeah.
some communities, Lebanon and Hanover, I think there's one other, or two others, have Plainfield, yeah, have done like a whole program, and that's something the Energy Committee could do, is a program to try to explain this and try to encourage people to opt up. Just because it's good for the environment, it's good for, it's good for
Do we
clean,
have to
for
offer,
fossil fuels.
do we have to offer more than one plan?
It's
Well,
good to have more options, don't you think?
No,
Oh,
not,
well,
we all wanted to go to.
Well, if,
Well-
yeah, go ahead, Joellen.
well, I guess this is the background and we're just moving into the purpose for this.
Meeting, which is setting our own rates. So this is how the rates have been set today and where we are, and the fact that you can choose any one of these. And so now, this all does actually lead right into your question, Wendell. Starting this year, the coalition allows each community to set their own local rate. And what that means is, we'll go to the next slide. We're going to create our own rate. And so, for instance, I put a little arrow here. We'll call it the Enfield basic rate. We can call it what we want, but it will probably have the word Enfield in it because it's our rate. It belongs to us. We can set it at whatever we want. And basically, this is, 0.3 of a cent higher than Granite Basic, but still not as high as Granite Plus, somewhere in the middle. If we decide, whatever rate we decide to set, the excess funds go into what's called Enfield's discretionary account at the coalition. They're taking care of all the money and holding it for us. And then Enfield can get a check from CPC&H to provide these funds when we ask for it. We're ready to spend these funds. We've got a program. The town's approved it. This is what we're going to do. But the town, Enfield, we right here get to decide what are the rules for setting the rate. What are the rules for using the funds? And how do we want to do that? And so let's move on. In this example, as I said, I showed like 0.3 of a cent higher. Well, let's look at a couple of different, so a little too far. A chart that shows, what would our reserves be at different rates? So if we added just 0.3 of a cent, so Enfield uses about 14 megawatt hours or 14,000 megawatt hours or this many kilowatt hours a year. And if you multiply the extra 0.3 of a cent times that, we would save $42,000 in our discretionary funds at the end of a year. That's about, and this is approximate because the loads and the energy prices all change, but it's approximate. And to each customer, and a customer we're saying here maybe uses 650 kilowatt hours a month. That's a pretty typical amount. For each customer, that it would be $1.95 a month that they are contributing to the Enfield discretionary funds.
And how many,
$1.95.
I know, but how
Yeah.
many are there?
We have about 2,200 households. About that many households. But it also includes any business. We don't have a lot of businesses, but it includes businesses and the municipal facilities that don't have solar, which is we only have one right now that does have solar. So 0.4, oops, I see I talked about this one, but I pointed to the 3, but here's the 0.4. 0.4 would, oh, I got it wrong. Okay. Yeah, well, the chart is right, the words are wrong. So 3/10 would provide 42,000, 4/10 of a cent more would provide $56,000, 5/10, et cetera, 6/10. So you can see that, we can build up the reserves. One of the most important things is that anyone can decide to opt out of CPCNH, they can opt out of Enfield's community power entirely and go back to default power of Liberty or Eversource. They can opt out of Enfield's basic rate, whatever we decide. If we decide to add 3/10 or 4/10, anybody in town can say, I don't want that, I want Granite Basic, which is the lowest rate of anybody's rates that's being offered, for instance. Or they can decide to opt up to 50%. And that change, people can change. They can do it for a month or 2 months, or they can do it for a year and then change their mind. You can opt around, up, down, sideways, at any time. I think that's one of the most important things
Have we
to
seen
understand
that
about this
already?
program. Yeah.
How
So,
much, I mean,
well, unfortunately, I don't have that. If I can find that one later, I will
how many
find
people
that.
actually know?
Well, I think we have we had, 2%, approximately 1% that have opted all the way up to Clean 100. It was 1.2%, and about 1% that had opted up to 50%. I don't remember how many had opted to Granite Basic. Plus.
Did anyone opt out? Entirely?
Yeah.
Has it
Yes,
been
there was a small number.
Yeah, yeah,
We have those
Yeah.
specifics. We can bring that to another.
that wasn't,
energy
yeah, that
meeting.
wasn't for this meeting though. And also, originally, anybody who was on New Hampshire Electric Co-op or who had already chosen a third-party supplier, they did not get opted into this program. But they can opt in later, like they can opt in now or some other time. So they can do that. And just to say, the reason we didn't opt in New Hampshire Electric Co-op is because the rates were similar, because they are a co-op having similar competitive rates. So we can't always guarantee that the rates will be lower. And also, but people have opted in from New Hampshire Electric Co-op because they want to contribute to Enfield's community power. And so that just helps Enfield a little bit.
So at this moment in time, are all 2,200 people in the plan?
It's not, I can't answer that. No, not, so maybe the 2,200 is the number of meters that we are, that we are serving. But they're not, that doesn't necessarily represent all of Enfield. Maybe it's 2,300 meters. I don't know.
But we said before, if they didn't do anything, they're in.
Correct.
Yes, but if they were
So are
on,
they-
But they may.
They might have had-
They go up.
they might have had an energy provider they already chose, then they did not opt in. So we don't have
The
that
data
number.
must be-
Yeah, we don't have that number. Okay, so how would it work?
It's a high number.
So the default rate for Enfield would be the Enfield rate instead of the Granite Basic, which is today's default rate for Enfield. People can choose any of the available rates if they don't want to be on it, or if they want to be at a higher rate for renewable energy. A new rate is chosen every 6 months. Oh, that's that's the mouse that's in the way. A new rate is chosen every 6 months by the select board and town manager. Parameters around the rate setting can be, and would probably, the select board would recommend that they be, the rules around that be approved by the town. For example, the Enfield, a rule might be that the Enfield rate must always be lower than the default utility rates and no more than, 5/10, half a cent higher than Granite Basic. I'm just making up this rule, but it seems like a pretty good one that others have thought about too. So you still want to make sure you're saving money for everybody. And then the town would be presented with a yearly report on the Enfield energy reserves at every town meeting. And that's where we'd have an opportunity to vote on the use of those funds. And I liken that to the TIF district or the CIP, where there's all kinds of possible projects, but none of them are approved until the town says, yeah, that's the one we want to do.
Town meeting.
Town meeting. Right. So I think that the next 2 town meetings, at this one coming up, we would approve this, that we would want our own rate and the rules around how the select board and the town manager have to set that rate. And the reason we can't set the rate for a town meeting is because the rates get set within like a week of when they have to be established, and it's a last minute thing. Which I'm very happy to say, our town manager has been at the rate settings and has approved the default rates that we've been on. And so I don't think it's a problem. It's just that we do have to, participate if we want our own rate.
Problem is, when you have a whole pot of money out there, people start looking at it. and
Yes.
wanna Use it for things other than energy efficiency, or, for example, putting in our own solar field.
Yep. Well, let's talk about what some of the projects can be and how to establish the rules such that the funds can't be used for things they shouldn't be used for. And see if we could, like, that's what the town, I think that's what the town has to agree on, is the rules around this fund. And I put in this last item that we're talking about, I think this fund should be open to donations as well, not just to the, what the community power brings in on its own. But if it's open to donations and somebody in the public wanted to help support a solar array on the new fire safety building, and these funds aren't going to be enough, but it would be like a matching fund or something like that. So I'm hoping, and the first review from Ed about whether that was doable was, he thought it was doable. So I would want to put that in, that we could also take donations. So we're not trying to fund things that are too big. So here are some potential projects. For instance, we have a solar array on the shed out there at this building. And it's a PPA, which means we're buying the solar. We don't own the solar array. And in 2 years, that solar array is the owner is willing to sell it. And it's probably would be a good price. But, the town doesn't have the money to just buy it. If we saved up discretionary funds, that would be one potential project,
What sort of range of dollars roughly?
like 100,000.
100,000, wow,
Yeah.
worth doing.
Financial support for a solarized campaign or an energy efficiency type campaign, an actual rebate program we could do, or a energy auditing program. We could launch a residential or commercial energy coaching program. That's kind of like, I would think of that as more of like an audit program. Perhaps a fast charger or EV charger for town or for public use. We could provide funds for solar, I already said that. Oh, well, I said that, but not as official project for the fire safety building or I didn't realize this, the Whitney Hall, the town hall, they removed the slate roof.
Yes.
Well, I have to say that makes it much more inviting for solar, just saying. So anyway, there's another possibility. HVAC or energy efficiencies for various city buildings. Or a revolving loan fund for residential home or rental upgrades. So these are, and I just sort of made some of these up. So one of the things that the Energy Committee can do over time, and feedback even at this meeting, is ideas for these kinds of projects. Such that, like you said, Austin, that they don't go off the rails and it's just discretionary funds. That's not what this is. As a matter of fact, I would want to make sure it had a name like Enfield Energy Funds or something that says what it's for. And if possible, that's well outlined in the town meetings, vote.
In that regard, I think there's a way to not say solar for a while, because climate change activities hugely affect the world, and we might want to do something related to geothermal and.
Yeah, so energy efficiency, I think, is really important. Maybe we put geothermal in. Are you taking notes, right, Joellen? Because I can't write on this. Okay, great. So geothermal, or we should just list all the kinds of possibilities that would fit into this category.
And we do remember, we have people online.
Oh, does anybody have any questions? I think you could raise your hand. I think it's just Charlie. Yes, go ahead, Charlie.
Yeah.
I am totally in favor of buying the solar at DPW. I don't know what the price is now, but the original price from the first company was like 185,000.
Yeah, I think it's going to be down to closer to 110 for 6 years later.
Okay, now if a person doesn't sign in for infield energy program and benefits come out, can they still benefit from that?
If people opt out entirely of the energy, Enfield's community power, they are still part of the community of Enfield and we support them. Yes,
Okay,
that answers the question.
good, thank you.
Yes, Austin.
Geothermal is cheaper than solar for
Sometimes,
something.
yes, for some things. That's
Yeah.
why it's worth having it in the list.
I was wondering, can anybody throw pipe in Mascoma Lake, or one of the lakes, and get their
Yeah.
geothermal?
No,
I don't, so because, I don't think so because of the New Hampshire, what, DES rules, Department of Environmental, because you're heating up the water. If you do that,
yeah,
or cooling it down, one or the other, depending on the time of year.
I'm pretty sure it's a rule somewhere, either
Yeah, but but it,
state or whatever.
right, but you can do it in the ground and,
It's more expensive.
Or,
it is.
but there's also things like carbon removal, carbon dioxide removal, which makes a big.
Well, but we don't have any factories in Enfield that I think we could be
There are.
promoting that for.
There are carbon credits, all kinds of ways.
Yeah, but if we think about this
Local.
community,
Yeah, local solar,
Yeah.
local
what
energy
ideas that we
capabilities.
might,
But there are significant carbon recovery systems that might be made here, doesn't matter, there's so much in the environment,
Well, if there was
Okay,
like a
well-
business that wanted to come in
Yeah.
and, yeah,
like I might.
okay, other ideas?
yeah, yeah.
Carbon credit for the new brewery.
Yeah.
Oh, we have a
There you
brewery?
go.
And that's a big deal, because the carbon dioxide we put into drinks is incredible.
I'm not aware of the new brewery.
Yeah, well, gonna write it down.
I see, it's
Okay.
the brewery thing, all kinds of,
Oh, when you said no factories, that's about the only one I could.
Yeah.
well, it's a
Kind
very
of a fact, in
timely
some way.
statement, because they're doing well, and they are making a
But they're
lot
gonna,
of
they're gonna
carbon
move into the
dioxide.
downtown building that.
The former
That's
line.
not ridiculous.
So how about, I liked Austin, how about we focus a little bit on what would be the rules that we think would help sell this program to the town residents at next year's town meeting. That that you want to have input to, because our next step here is to bring this to the select board and try to craft a warrant article that describes how Enfield's electricity rates will be developed starting next year, if the town agrees. But I think to have that in front of the town, we need to say, these are the rules around this energy, let's call it Enfield's energy funds.
Another reason not to be solar is you've now read the sham that's going on with this solar company saying incorrectly. that
Well,
it's
but I think solar is a good thing to put on the list.
I know,
and
at the
to-
moment, it's a,
You think people will be turned off by it?
no, I'm just saying that,
Yeah.
is,
So
there are-
all of you aware of this?
Well,
You
No, at the moment, excuse me, Wendell, I'm gonna try to refocus since I was chairing this
Good.
until Marta came. And that was that, Kim just asked what we could do in terms of setting up limits for
how the.
writing, a warrant article, so that if we go forward to the select board and then to the town meeting, what are the limits that we want to put on this? And for me, it's one that it would be a designated fund.
Designated fund, is that how it?
I think you're at the ground floor where you're in total control. In time, as I say, someone else was looking at this pot of money, and if it's not locked up.
Yeah.
They'll want to put their fingers
What
on it.
makes it locked up? Can you describe that a little bit?
Well, you have to, in your write-up, which designates how these funds are generated and will be used.
Mhm.
Has to be pretty solid. That it can only be used for,
Like the list of projects, or can we have a descriptive energy efficiency, renewable energies, savings, energy savings, municipal, residential. Like, do you think that meets it, or do we have to have a list of potential projects in your mind?
I think your third goal is a very nice little summary. Rebate program for residential energy efficiency projects. And then you've listed those couple of items. You could add one or two more to it, but I think that's a nice little summary.
So like 2 or 3 bullets of the types of projects, without necessarily saying buy out the solar array.
Yes.
I mean,
Well-
we could, I mean, these can be a
My
full
thoughts
list of
for
projects.
year one,
Yeah.
quite frankly.
Yeah.
Is that the one that's listed first is the one that has the most immediate payback. And you can, since what's going to be on the town meeting agenda will be a warrant article.
Yeah.
Therefore, a presentation which says the purpose of the restricted dedicated fund is to fulfill potential projects, the first one of which is to buy out the solar array on the DPW building. And funds which are not needed for that purpose can then go to other potential projects. So the town could get, let us say, a loan for $100,000 and
Right.
little to buy out the solar array, but wouldn't have to necessarily make it a single cash purchase. It could be over, say, a couple of 3 years.
Right.
So to allow the fund to build up
To
and
build it back.
so that
pay
the
it back.
fund, which
Yeah.
will build slowly, let us say,
Right.
has enough money to pay the loan
Ah,
at no expense to the taxpayers whatsoever
Right,
initially.
right.
That would be a way to sell it to the public.
But how about this, though? Could we sell to the public, because we won't have any funds to start? So do we think that we can sell at this coming town meeting, the idea, the restriction of the funds, the, rate setting thoughts about how the rate settings can happen, and then the restriction of the funds includes things like programs for residential efficiency and local renewables or something like that, more general, and then have a list of potential projects. But all we're asking them to vote yes or no on is to start the Enfield new rate.
Is there any time limit to buy out the solar array? In other words,
Yeah,
if
there
it does
is.
it done in 25, can it be done in 26?
Not necessarily, it's actually won't be 25, it would be 26. Right, that's what we've decided. And if we miss that 1 year, we might have to wait until the owner's willing to do it again, because there's different, like,
So there's a buyout window.
might be, we'd have to talk to.
So on that assumption that there is, then we sort of need to move that to the top of the list to see that it occurs.
Well, if we go with this add-on money.
Yeah.
And you say the lowest rate, you're talking about $40-some thousand.
Yeah.
So it would only be 2 years.
Couple years to get pretty close, yeah.
3 years at the most. But at the end of 2 years, you would be paying 80% of it, I would
Right.
assume. And then, the only loan you'd have to get from a bank or whatever would be
20,000 or something. Yeah,
20,000?
yeah. Let's not worry about how we pay it off. I think the great feedback we're getting here, oh, Charlie wants to talk too, is how we can present this to the town and make sure we're answering most of the important questions.
But again, there would be one to do it. I mean, that would be the warrant article to allow it, and then those would be examples.
Yeah, I think we can decide the next year when there's actual funds and when we're ready to buy it, because it's like June, so the meeting happens in March. At that point, we can say any funds that are in this could go towards the DPW and everybody can.
So
just
we would
vote
have
on
the
that.
option of
Second,
presenting the purchase of it
the
at
second,
the 2026 town meeting.
20,
Right.
oh, yeah, 6, right.
Yeah.
I was thinking.
Yeah.
five.
And still be within that limited window that you
We'll,
described.
I think
It's not gonna be available to purchase until
Until-
June of 26.
26.
Okay, well,
There's-
perfect then.
But this program has to be in existence before that.
That would be
Or
good.
Yes, to
generate-
build up a little bit of money.
Right,
Right,
And then it becomes a very convincing argument in
Yes.
2026 to say,
exactly.
with a little bit of a reserve fund, we can buy that at zero expense to the average taxpayer, which is going to be the selling.
I have a question.
Well,
So does
Charlie,
Charlie, and his hand has been up for a long time.
Yeah.
Hey, Charlie.
It might help the selling, purchasing of the solar to say that now the town is actually paying more money per kilowatt hour for the solar power than they would if they bought it from Liberty.
Yeah, okay, we can, when we get to that point, like, we don't have to have that for this warrant article. If, I guess I would like to suggest that we separate those two, and the 2025 warrant article is not gonna talk specifically about the purchase of that. And things will change a lot between now and then in terms of energy prices and whatever else.
Other
So-
than if there's a question about your listed project.
Yeah, then we can say
A
that,
quick answer would be,
yeah,
there's a monetary incentive to buy it
yes.
when the time comes.
hey, Marta?
Yeah. So my question is whether the warrant article will need to be mentioning specifically the amount.
The rate, we
The rate
can't do
itself.
that. I don't think we can do that.
Right, exactly. So-
Right, right.
Because that's set, yeah, so that's
It's
not,
set too close to when a new rate is.
But it can mention the increment.
That's what I'm thinking, and the rules around how
Yeah.
much.
So that's what we're talking about here. What would we propose the increment to be?
So, yeah, I guess my thought was we proposed the increment to be, I said here, where did I say it? How did I suggest that
Point 003.
three?
So 3 cents per kilowatt.
Yeah, 3 cents is what I put in here. And it was kind of based on the fact that Granite Basic was at 8.6, Granite Plus was at 9.3, and the utilities were over 10. My thought is you probably never want to go more than 5/10, but in this case, you know, if we were going to give, that's the other thing, is if we want to give the select board and the town manager some slop, we can say that they could go up to 5/10 higher if there's still a lot of margin of savings for the average customer.
I'd like a specific recommendation to the select board
Yeah, is
so
that
that
what you feel
it
too?
becomes
Yeah.
For lack of a better term, a basic, an easier decision.
Yeah, okay, it probably would be easier.
An entry point at this, get the program established at a lower modest entry point. And then come back later.
If it's going
If, for
well.
example,
Yeah.
as in your project list, it turns out that we really would like to build up a little more funds, for example, community assistance for insulation,
Yeah.
energy audits, whatever. That would be a rationale for a later year or so.
So if I understood Charlie, it's costing more from the solar array on the roof than if we were buying it.
But it
Well-
changes every month. And Charlie, if in December, the rate of electricity is 20+ cents. We're paying 11 cents for the solar. So yes, in one of the first years, we paid more overall in the whole year because the rate actually went down to 9 or 8 cents. And we paid a constant 11 cents per kilowatt hour for everything that the solar array delivered. The second year, it wasn't that bad, and we, you know, so do you understand that too, Charlie, that we're not talking about 1 month? If you look at the whole year, the winter months are a lot higher than 11 cents per kilowatt hour.
I was looking at in the past, and in the past, like, I think it was last year, we were buying it for 12 cents, where Liberty was selling it for 10.
Yeah, but what month was that? Because every month.
I don't do individual months. I just look at the whole, I don't follow it that closely anymore.
Yeah, okay, so for commercial, and actually commercial is different than residential. This example is residential because most of our customers are residential. But on the commercial and municipal side, the rates tend to change for Liberty and Eversource every month. So, and Community Power has actually developed a monthly rate too for people, for businesses that want that.
But businesses, if they did sign up for community power, pay the community power rate, not Liberty's commercial rate. Is that correct?
That is correct. They do not pay, and I don't, does this rate have, does it
No.
have commercial rates on it? It only has,
Commercial
yeah.
on it.
the deeds, there are more details for commercial. I don't have them off the top of my
But
head.
even a multi-phase installation will pay, if they are in community power,
Yeah.
pays community power rates.
Right.
Not Liberty's commercial rate, which is historically higher.
Yes, yes, and the commercial rates with CPCNH are better than the default rates
I
as
can
well.
be more specific and tell you that there's three-phase power going into Whitney Hall. And therefore, under Liberty, it would kick into a higher commercial rate than it would otherwise.
Yes, yes. And do you know that they're on, Enfield Community Power?
They have been on
Then they
Enfield
shouldn't
Community Power
change. Yeah,
prior to this,
okay.
but the
Oh,
meter,
because it's a
but
new.
the meter went away.
Okay, okay.
There is no,
So we may have to ask for it to be,
so when the meter gets
On to the
reinitiated,
account,
they will have to ask for it to be sure.
Yeah.
And I've reminded them of that, and I've also
Okay.
reminded the
The new-
emergency services
the new
building
plate.
of the exact same thing.
great, great.
Okay, any additional comments? What I've heard so far is designated fund, a specific amount for an increment. And we know that it would be for a 6-month period, and it would be up to the select board to continue that for the next
6 months.
6 months.
Yeah, I mean, at town meeting, we have to vote for the rest of the year.
Correct.
And we want to make the warrant article such that we don't have to keep voting for, yes, do we want to do
Right.
discretionary funds this year? Now, do we want to do it this year? Now, do we want to do it this year? Like, it would be good if that warrant article said, going forward, as long as we're on community power, and that's working for us as Enfield, then the select board chooses the rate every 6 months. And it should be 3/10 higher than, unless,
Right.
again, I'd say the one unless I put in there, 3/10 higher than Granite Basic, unless that happens to be hitting the default. That's more than the default of the,
I would leave that discretion to the select board so
Okay.
that once the facts are identified,
they'll know.
they have the discretion
To say, yeah, we can change
to
it to 2 cents.
hear from this committee. And this committee at some point may recommend an increment other than 3 cents,
3/10 of a cent.
3/10 of a cent.
It is tiny. Great,
Okay.
sounds good. Thank you. This is good feedback.
So
And if you
anything-
do along the way, think of other projects that you want to sort of put on the list, send us the email or come to another energy committee meeting and talk about it.
So Charlie, do you have any other comments?
No, I am very pleased with this. I will be elated when we own the solar.
Well, that's gonna be, check it's back with us in 2 years,
Yes.
if not before.
Great.
Rather, let's do it before.
It's good. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Probably the only one on.
Right now he is, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't see anybody else on, and nobody else logged on, so.
Question, on the discretion, on the expenditure of the discretionary fund, who will have the jurisdiction over that?
Well, that-
There you go.
That we should put in the warrant article as well, like this is another important item. I think we were told by the select board that it needs to be a town, a town person.
Town meeting.
A town meeting?
Oh, a
Town-
town meeting to say what the project would be, like we do with TIF.
So once initiated, I'm
Yeah.
questioning, I
Oh,
just,
okay, yes,
I think we need clarification as to who will be authorized to expend the discretionary fund.
that has to be done at a town meeting. That's what we heard was the right.
To expend any of it?
Yeah, sort of like the same way we do TIF.
Then how will you distribute it? Let's say you do a community support effort. You can't have a town vote every time somebody wants to use a few $100s for insulation in there.
No, but no, if we do, if we decide, if we want to do like an energy audit program that's available to everybody, to all the residents, then the program would have to be approved at town meeting. And the program would have the details like up to $200 a person, or for low income, they get a full audit for free, or, would have all those parameters around that program. And that program would get approved at town meeting. That's the way I would see it. Just like if we want to buy the solar off the DPW, that program would have to get approved at
If
town.
we make it so that the CIP has the authority to review the projects, then you don't have to go through a town vote necessarily
To
for
spend
each-
money.
to spend money. So that it could be
CIP
integrated
spend-
into
Yeah.
into the pipeline that we have now, where the CIP filters through projects and then makes a recommendation to the budget committee, who then inserts it as a part of the budget, so that you're not having to actually go through a town vote. What I'm specifically thinking of, for example, of is perhaps we don't need to worry about a town vote to buy the solar array if we have the discretionary funds. So that,
But it sounds like, I'm worried about what Austin said there. If the CIP is doing this, that's discretionary funds they use for all kinds of things.
capital items,
Well, okay, but everything that that this group wants to do, like all those projects, are not all capital items. Some of them are programs.
that's true, that's true.
I think that's where I would worry about discretionary funds being siphoned off for some capital improvement project.
Yeah, no,
That's not
I,
energy related.
yeah, you're right, it doesn't fit squarely under capital items once the purchase of the solar array is done.
So we have an Enfield Community Power Committee. It's just a committee. I don't know if that equals like a TIF fund committee or TIF committee or a CIP committee. But the impression I got, maybe I'm wrong about how those work, like TIF, again, the money is already being absorbed from different things that happen in the TIF district, taxes related to TIF district. But when the TIF committee has something they want to spend it on, they have to present that program to the town to agree that that's the right expenditure of those funds.
If it's a capital expenditure, but
TIF.
there again, that's the difference between TIF and,
Well, does TIF
Spending
spend
on
money on
capital.
other stuff?
no,
No, okay.
no.
So that's
So-
why I have that.
So that,
impression
so
for
it's,
TIF.
so future projects
Yeah.
that you presented as
Yeah.
potential projects are not necessarily capital expenditures.
Right.
And I would just hate to have to see it go every
Stuff.
single time to a town vote.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. I think we can, in order to get past the first town meeting, I don't think we have to define that yet. Because the first town meeting, we're just asking, can we start this program so that there will be some funds? And anytime we want to use those funds, we can say at the beginning, we will come back. So, we won't spend anything the first year. We, again,
Yeah,
I think we should give ourselves a year to absorb some funds. And then at the next town meeting, if the idea is to allow the energy committee or the community power committee to spend some of those funds on something, I think we need to get it approved.
like any other reserve fund, you need to, upfront, designate who has the authorization to expend the funds.
Okay,
Each of the, admittedly, they're capital funds, but each of the capital funds have specific bodies in the town structure
okay.
that are allowed to expend.
What are they?
Well, some of them can be expended by the Board of Selectmen. Some of them require, the trustees of reserve funds. There are different bodies that are allowed to spend the funds.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
And who would be best to advise us on that?
My thought is that the Board of Selectmen be allowed to expend the funds based on the advice and consent of the Energy Committee.
I think that's great, and as long as that doesn't hang us up with the first meeting, like again, the first town meeting that says, let's start the
I
program.
don't think it would. I think it's just something that has to be noted to establish the ground rules, if you
Okay.
will.
I
Yep.
agree. I
Okay,
agree,
that
'cause-
sounds good.
Because people will be like, if you're starting to get
Like money,
money,
who's going to?
Who's going
Gonna
to,
manage
decision.
it.
Yeah.
who's gonna manage it, who's gonna be
Right.
responsible for it? And the advantage to the select persons is that there's 5 people.
Yeah.
So they have to
Agree.
agree.
No, that's good. So I think the select board, what I'm imagining is our presentation to the select board is something like this for background and everything else. And then the one pager that says, these are the elements that we think need to get into that warrant article.
Yes.
And that includes, you know, that the funds are designated, that they, I hope we can add that they can be donated to, we can have, we can accept donations into that fund. And also, that the select board is in charge of expending them, but we expect, or we will,
Based on the advice,
based on,
and if you want consent
yeah.
of the energy committee.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I guess I'm just worried that we were told that we want the town to vote on how we use those funds. Does that fit into this warrant article?
I think there needs to be, that limits you to a once a year.
Well, I'm willing to do it
Process.
whatever way the select board.
And
wants to do it.
ultimately, even if the town approves a plan for something, it still comes down to who gets to expend the funds.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking is, that first, the town has to vote to agree to the funds expenditure,
See,
and then the select board.
The select board, if there's, let us say it's a fund to support the community in terms of insulation projects on individuals or that type of thing. The select board can then assign that duty to, for example, our social
Right.
services employee.
Yep.
Uh,
Okay.
so it's not
Let's give it
direct
A try like
to
that.
that person.
Yeah. That sounds good. And then the rate that we're recommending.
So
So
the action item is here, so basically, there's gonna be the meeting with the select board that I know is
It's the
happening.
21st. We're on the schedule already for that
Yeah.
October select board meeting.
With this presentation,
With the final sheet that has the full recommendation of what we think needs to go into that warrant
Yeah.
article.
Yeah.
Great,
awesome,
that sounds good.
It's great.
that sounds really good.
Terrific. And it's a good way.
Oh, by the way,
Cool.
I thought another potential project to be solar street lighting.
Okay, now we've
Well,
talked about that in
Oh.
our energy committee.
So thank you.
Yes,
So this part's kind of ending and we're gonna have our
meeting, if you don't want to stick
our
around.
energy meeting.
Well, I have, one of the reasons for me being here is I'm not on community power and I don't know how to get on it. I've talked to you.
New Hampshire
Ken.
Electric Co-op?
Huh?
Are you New Hampshire Electric Co-op? I
Uh,
forget what you're-
I'm
Are you still, you're with Liberty and you have a solar array. But your solar array is pretty old. Old meaning you're in the original net metering, I think.
Yes,
Then you can just opt in to community power. It will work for you, only for very older solar arrays. And so
well, I've talked to, keep saying that grants, Liberty won't transfer over my account.
they won't, but they will, first of all, it isn't Liberty who transfers your account. Community power takes it. If you think of it that way, community power says, this meter is now on community powers, bill them that way. And then Liberty has to do it. So you just have to talk to the Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire, cpcnh.org.
It's on the card.
That
It's on
card
the
right
bottom
there, you
of the
can
card,
call them, or you can go online and just say,
the other side of
put your,
Which phone number is this?
the very bottom.
Is this
Oh,
their phone?
that's-
In the upper
Yeah,
yeah,
right-hand corner,
same one, yeah.
1-866-603
Yeah.
power.
and you can say, I know I have solar and that's why I wasn't opted in originally, but I've been assured, and I could look at your bill, but if you get credits when you have extra solar,
I get credit, I get money because I have two meters, one for the cottage,
oh yeah, Yeah.
and that's who I would, and that's electric heat, and I would like to have them get cheaper power.
yeah, that one could be on
Because
there
I'm-
anyway, I would think, that one might be on there. We
Um,
can look, if you want to send me your electric bills, I can look at that and see what's going on.
Okay,
But yes, you should be able to opt in both meters to community power.
You just need your account numbers.
because my
Which one?
house,
Account numbers.
6 months out of the year, I have I'm making money.
Good.
So,
And are they giving you dollar credits or are they giving solar?
oh, no credit, I get money.
Oh, if you get money, then maybe, I better look at that
I
carefully.
get money because I have the two meters.
Yeah,
If
that's,
it was
a-
just the one meter,
yeah,
uh,
you know, I don't wanna tell you to get on community power if you're gonna lose that money, so we'd have to look at your bill carefully. Yeah, I think that the meter that doesn't have solar on it should be on community power, you can do that. That won't change. It's only the meter that has solar on it.
But then I dropped down to where
I just-
I get credits instead of money.
Oh, did they tell you?
Well, I think that's, you're the more expert than me.
Yeah, no, I don't think that would happen. We need to do this outside of this meeting, I think, because it's a specific case, but it's an interesting one. We should look at that. Can you scan in your bills and send it to your
I
email?
can bring it down.
Yeah, okay, I'm not always there, but we should move on though, because we've got other business to do.
Right, so.
Thank
Want
you.
to stay, you're welcome to. So, Marta, you're on now. And the first thing on the agenda was the minutes.
The minutes, yeah, the approval of the August meeting minutes.
There were a couple of,
1 second, sorry.
okay, we're starting the meeting again.
Yes.
Thanks for
let's-
coming in. Appreciate it.
Thank
Yeah, great to see you, Austin. Fantastic.
Thank you for coming. Yeah. So maybe I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes, with amendments and so that we can discuss.
Sure. Okay,
Okay.
so I'll move that we, approve the minutes.
Or you, okay, I'll
But,
second, and then we have to have discussions that was.
Right,
Okay.
there were a couple of times, in the beginning, it said something about energy when it should have been energy, it should have said Enfield Community Power, not Energy Community Power.
Oh, okay.
And there was another time where it was referred to as public hearing. It's not a public hearing,
Yeah,
it's an information session. So, just that.
Great. Then, if you made the motion, do you move to approve with the,
Yes.
okay, and I'll still second.
all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Great. Okay. So then, we had a whole bunch of to-dos that I think we did. So like, some communications that went out and we did that, so check, like, the newsletter, last month. Both for, volunteers and for, updates on community power. So discussion funds, we, of course, are doing the informational session here. We're done to study it.
Can I make a, suggestion,
Yeah.
and maybe it's another to-do that I should take?
Yeah,
Since we didn't have a very big turnout,
yeah.
can I'll say me, turn that presentation into a set of
Why?
listserv. I'm thinking listserv posts, just
Well-
because it feels like listserv gets the most feedback. Anytime I put something on listserv, somebody responds. But where else do we, I
Why,
mean,
why couldn't you put it on YouTube?
yep, we made a,
And you can do the presentation just as you've done it now
yeah,
and put that on YouTube.
And
And then on the listserv say,
here's a link,
it's on YouTube.
I think that's.
Yeah,
So we
that-
could take the
like the
Zoom,
video.
the Teams recording, put that in YouTube.
Yes.
That would work.
Yes.
yeah, okay, we can try.
I mean, the minutes get,
I'm happy,
I mean, the
Elisa does it.
the owl puts us on YouTube anyway,
Right,
but I'm
right.
saying
Oh.
your specific presentation.
Yeah.
With slides.
Yeah. Okay,
Could be on YouTube
Great.
and
Okay.
then a mention of it on the listserv.
yeah, and a mention of it in the newsletter and a few other
And then a
places so
mention
that,
of it in the newsletter.
right,
which
wherever we think.
don't know
people
if you-
read.
If we're, I think you could still capture the September newsletter. Alyssa writes it, but
Yeah,
doesn't
it's
always
only
write it until a day or two
24th,
ahead of time.
you might be able to get
So
it.
you might be
Yeah.
able to capture
Okay.
the September.
Okay, it just
newsletter
became
still.
not my action item.
That's the October action, so. Because she's working on the October, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she's writing a letter
Right
in
now
another
for the
couple-
October,
in another
yes,
day or
yes,
two.
right.
That will be published in another day or three.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so, once the recording is available, I'm happy to do whatever is needed. I mean, you'll need the link to post
Put it
it
on the list, yeah, if you get the
I
link,
can take the rest
Yeah.
for the newsletter.
great, If, that would be great if you start that and I'll do the second.
I
half.
would suggest contacting Elisa
Yeah,
first,
definitely.
because she will get the link and you can just.
Yeah.
Move it along.
Yeah.
I'd love to turn off the recording now.
Yes.
but- Except that this town is a meeting.
Okay, fine. I know, I was thinking the same thing, because then it would be,
Just stopped, yeah. Be nice if we could cut it and make it look good. Anyway,
Yeah,
Let's
I
keep
can ask that. How about I ask that?
okay.
Okay. All right, so. Or just 1 second.
And we can put it on the website too. You put it on the energy committee's
Yeah.
section of the website.
Awesome. Yeah, so then moving on to another topic, budget.
Okay.
So I think I shared with our whole group that there was a suggestion from Ed to allocate 1,500 as opposed to the 2,000 on.
2,500 or something.
2,500.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I responded actually saying that we were inquiring around the cost of a possible project. And so that I was going to get back to him with, you know, whether that's okay for us or
Yeah.
not.
Or if we could
I
do.
didn't want to say just yes right away because we discussed about potential projects and so we might need a little bit more. So if we don't do anything, that's the.
1,500 is the default.
1,500.
Okay.
But I was inquiring around that community resilience, process for here to see how much they would cost. So any thoughts about the budget issue here, the budget?
I think it's reasonable for him to reduce it.
Yeah, he's looking at trimming anything he possibly can as we head into a budget planning year.
So what about the community resilient
Yeah, so,
assessment?
yes, so we knew that range between 7,000 and 10,000. I have not gotten a specific answer about what we can do with, you know, a little more limited, budget. But I'm waiting to hear that. And, Alyssa did not respond to my question of whether we can accumulate, so to speak. So whether, if we don't spend, can we carry over some funds? It doesn't
don't
sound
think
right,
so.
yeah?
No, you can't carry unspent
Okay.
money over, no.
Can't, okay.
And I was not able to contact, Rob Taylor, about seeing if the planning area could
Oh,
work with us. I completely forgot that until,
Mark, I have my usual. Marta, I
yes,
apologize, I have my usual 7 o'clock departure requirement. And I also have to acknowledge I did not get the prices, I will do so.
Oh, right,
Anything you
for
need
paper.
for
Oh,
absolute-
yeah. Yeah, and in case we wanted to do a mailing,
for the mailing, okay, for the information of what, how much it would cost.
that would be
Yeah,
great.
I two meetings, I've not done it. I apologize.
Okay, it's all right.
No, I'm ready.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Just
Thank you.
to,
Thank you for being here.
on the deadline.
Are there any,
Oh.
we probably don't know at this point, but are there any grant funds available to support the climate resilience assessment?
That's a very good question.
I don't even know where to look, but, you know, thought.
Yeah, I am hoping to have, one other idea I had was that maybe at the next meeting, we could invite this colleague to present on how
How it works, yeah.
it works for
That's a
them.
good idea, because we might not have the money for next year,
Yeah.
but we can hear about the program. I mean, it'll be too late probably for that, right?
The thought I'm sorry,
we could use the money that we accrue for that.
It's true. It might be another thing to use money for.
I'm gonna add it to the list.
Yes, add
part
it
of
to
the assessment has to do with,
Cheers.
identifying areas of concern in the event of an emergency. Do I have that correct?
Yes, like either like
Oh.
flooding or hurricanes
Right,
or
or
just
massive
power
power
outage,
outage, for
massive power outage.
Is it something that a conversation with Roy Holland
Yes.
could be had because he may know of a grant fund that might have something available, so it could contribute to his,
Right.
security, safety,
Right.
town-wide safety plan, which he has helped to write.
Right. And then if
And
we
then,
can
but that could be
contribute
an
some
aspect
too.
of it. I
Yeah.
don't,
That
I've
would
seen
be
the
great.
plan, but there was nothing in it about that kind of a cataclysmic event. So
Right.
maybe there's a grant out there that could be found as a part of that plan.
We're, from Revision's perspective, we're seeing an awful lot of small towns coming up with solar storage resiliency packages that are being completely funded by the IRA. Like, why can't we get one of those? And we're
Funded by the,
IRA funds, the, you
oh,
know,
the,
Inflation
infrastructure.
reduction. or the infrastructure one, either
Yeah.
one. And so they're coming, but I know the first ones that we're seeing are all from communities that are considered in energy poverty areas, not poverty, but not us.
Right.
Plus, a couple of meetings ago, we heard the complication of, a solar field not being possible on the Route 4 area because of,
Oh,
the issues that were presented to us by that individual who came 2-3 meetings ago. And
that was
said,
a really big solar field though, in terms of like, it doesn't mean we can't do other local solar that's small, that, you know, benefits the town. So I think don't cross off all solar fields in Enfield as a, like, undoable, not doable.
So
That, a megawatt array is
a
really big.
megawatt field
It's too big for
is
us,
too big.
yeah. But 100 KW to 300 KW might be fine,
Okay,
which
I
would
see.
be good for our town buildings. Like, we don't need a lot more than that.
well, the one that has always occurred to me is something which is adjacent
The
to
dog
our water supply.
Oh, the water supply. We have,
And there's land down there.
yeah, and maybe we can do something in wetlands. Is that the wetlands area?
Part of it is a wetlands area.
Yeah.
However, there's acreage because when they set that up, they put extra acreage around the well pumps as natural water protection.
Yeah, yeah.
And putting a solar array within a protected area has nothing to do with protecting the land from a potential infiltration of contaminants. So I'd always, and they have 3-phase power down there.
Yeah, so I wouldn't rule anything out yet. And I guess in general, let's not.
So that raises the question for me, Kathy, do you have any experience in grant writing?
I have worked a lot at nonprofits and I haven't done the grant writing myself, but I've worked with somebody who
Yeah.
does that. So it's not like I wouldn't have an idea of what I'm doing,
Right.
but I have not actively submitted grants myself. So it's easy.
Of course, you don't get them all, but it's easy. I mean, it's writing, if you don't mind writing.
Right.
And helping to craft a story.
Yep, and
usually-
having to understand the purpose of. it
Yeah,
all.
and that, you know, I think it's great to have somebody who's willing.
Yeah, I think the harder part is finding the grant to
Yes,
apply for.
that's a good start.
Yeah, I
That's
agree.
the harder part.
But you mentioned that our chief of police might know.
You might, but all I was thinking of in coordination with his efforts, it opens up an area where there might be some grants available. In other words, a federal or state safety grant kind of thing.
Yeah.
If the object of the exercise was to create a community-wide program to go along with some level of resilience in the event of an emergency for, other than plugging in a generator to feed the community building.
Right, something a little more.
Yeah, comprehensive. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why it came to mind, well, okay, maybe a solar field down by the wells, the McKenna wells there.
Well, so is there any action item that we think we should pursue here?
I will follow up with Rob Taylor and I'll
Okay.
actually
Yeah.
follow up with Jim Taylor. To see if they, but I don't know Roy Holland.
I can talk to Roy Holland and see if he has any knowledge of something, but I don't know enough, quite honestly, about the climate resilience assessment,
Yeah, how it works.
how it works or what it's for. So I wouldn't be describing something I know anything about, to be
Yeah.
honest.
So would it make sense to to invite this colleague, the next meeting to share more details about it. To invite the person that I'm in touch with around the climate resilience.
Yes, I think it would be good to understand more.
Yeah, because, you know, like,
Yeah.
I think she shared some materials which I brought at the previous meeting.
Right.
But then it's hard from,
Is it worth also inviting Roy to that, you know, like 20 minutes at the beginning of the energy committee, you know, or something like that? And does he go to these meetings?
He could, I think, I don't wanna speak for him, of
Right,
course,
but if we say what it is
you
enough
know,
that.
only works 23 hours a day as it is.
That's what I
but
was figuring. It might
I,
be
I don't
asking
know
too
enough
much.
about climate resilience assessment to say whether his presence, whether
Maybe
he can get
if
anything
you ask
out of
the
it.
person who's going to give us a little presentation, whether there's a benefit there, like, should
Yeah.
we
Yeah,
try
is
to?
there a
A
tie-in
good tie-in that would
that-
make sense.
our chief of police might be interested in or could provide any knowledge about?
yeah,
I concur with the 23 hours a day. My brother is the chief of police over in a town in Vermont.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been short of staff
Yeah.
until just the last few months, so for the first time in about 2.5 years, he finally is theoretically
Fully staffed.
got the full staff.
My brother went from a active police chief and 2 full-timers to the police chief retired. My brother was the acting and then the other guy left.
Yeah.
He was left with just himself for about 2 years.
Yeah.
He finally has somebody. So I can sense that.
So when you get the information from the community resilience person, to see if, you know, because I'm wondering about, you know, inviting Rob Taylor too. So when you get that information, please pass it on. You know, whether it's appropriate for other folks.
yeah,
And you were proposing having them come to the next meeting?
I was, and I would have to check whether that works at all.
And we'll be going to the select board on the 21st.
And our meeting's probably the week after that, or that Tuesday.
Well, there are 5 Tuesdays, I think.
Energy generally has followed the select board on the calendar.
Okay, then they're probably Monday and we're Tuesday. They're 20.
We meet on Monday.
Or we're 21, then we're 22 probably.
I have it on the calendar for this 22nd.
22nd,
Yes,
yeah, so that would be.
So
that
the
would be-
select board is probably meeting the 21st.
Right.
Okay.
Next energy meeting is the 22nd.
Yes,
On the town calendar.
thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, good. Well, so I think I don't have other items on the agenda in terms of and there are other updates, you know, because
Well, one interesting update for community power. On Thursday, the board's gonna be voting that, Sullivan County is one of the new counties that has joined community power.
oh, wow.
So that means a lot of communities that are, like Springfield has already joined community power, but they've been kind of dragging their feet, so they might back off. So, and the same with Cornish, but that opens the door for Claremont and a lot of other communities in Sullivan County.
Wonderful.
So again, the vote will be on Thursday.
Yeah,
Who's voting Thursday?
The Community Power Board to accept Sullivan County.
To accept, okay.
so that means, so what happens when a county is allowed in, like all towns?
All towns, any resident in that county can join community power, but they have to take the step.
It's an opt in, not an opt out.
For the county is an opt-in.
Correct.
So even though a town like Plainfield and Sullivan County is already in it, this would cover the rest of the towns then.
Correct.
I see. Now, has Grafton County
No.
opted or talked about it?
They've been in conversation.
Yeah, they're not joining this time, or, you know, we don't see them, they're not on the list yet. Of potential joinees. Concord is joining.
Just for my own edification, what's the rationale in Grafton not
The
joining?
county, whoever's running the county has to make an initiative and ask about it and create a plan and all the things that we had to do as a town. I don't even know who they are. We're not, so Community Power Coalition does not have to advertise or recruit. You know, we're not trying to bring members in. They come in because they want to, they've heard about it, they think it sounds like a good idea. They start asking questions and we're like, here's what you do, here's follow the, but the Community Power Coalition is bringing people in so fast because they want to, that nobody's going out asking, you know, the county commissioner in Grafton if they care.
Well, but they have approached.
They
the
have, I
Grafton.
hadn't heard that we talked to Grafton.
Yeah.
Who is it? Is it the county commissioner? Who we talk to when a county wants to do this?
I don't know, but I know Wendy Piper is.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah.
I don't know.
So you have to.
Wendy Piper represents our geographical area. Enfield is one of the towns that she serves.
Yeah, so probably, yeah,
But
She'd be a good
I know they were.
Yeah.
They had talked.
okay, good.
But that
They
just,
haven't signed a JPA though. Yeah, so the very first step for any town or county who wants to join is to sign this joint powers of agreement. And that has to be signed by like the people in charge.
correct, I think it's the governing board.
Board, yeah. So for us, it was a select board and for
For them,
city council,
county
for,
commissioners.
yeah, county commissioners. So they probably have to bring that up for a vote and decide this is a good idea and then, you know, all those things. All those things that we went through years
Sure,
ago.
yes.
But for us, it was the legislative body, which was the town meeting had to.
Yes.
approve it.
For most towns, it's town meeting has to agree. But anyway,
So anyway, that's the big.
okay, does that mean we got to the end of your agenda?
Kind of, there was one action item was, for you came to talk to Ed about the DPW solar array.
Yes,
Yes, we
Joel
did.
and I did. We went and we showed him the cash flow model. And we can do that again also for the select board, but the idea was just to say, looks like it's gonna be $110,000. Looks like at today's energy prices with a little bit of increase of 2 or 3% each year, that we would pay that back in less than 10 years, but not less than 5, which would have been nice if it was really that good. But energy prices go up and then it will look better another year.
Could you put something on paper for the select
Select
board
board?
for that purpose?
I can, but do we want to do it at this coming meeting? Like, there's no reason to do it this soon.
It would be too
We don't want to conflate it with this warrant article.
No, you're right. You're right. I can.
But we'll
I can see
definitely
that.
have it going next year when we start talking about what we're gonna use those discretionary funds for.
I would just be prepared to answer the question if, as part of the process, as you've listed it in one of the potential projects, the question comes up from one of the select board members about what's
I
this
can
all
speak
about?
to it, yes, I can definitely
Just be able to
speak
speak to it.
yes.
Great, I think we are,
I move to adjourn.
yeah, awesome.
Second.
All in
Just
favor,
waiting for
aye.
Marta to look like she was done.
waiting for her to pause.
Yeah, I think we're good. So it's 7:26.
Great.